Smile. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining. This is Essence of History, and today we're talking about Shackleton. I'm Amanda Armagast.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence. What a history of Shackleton. Now, there is actually, if you're interested in that, there's a movie called Endurance or Endurance. It's the name of the ship that Shackleton had. And that sort of, he sort of, what do you say that when you think of something and you make it real?
Manifest.
He manifested that. Shackleton manifested by calling the name of his ship Endurance.
Okay.
So, but before we start, let's start with the trivia. Why polar bear never eat penguins?
Because they can't catch them.
Okay, but why can't they catch them?
Because, well, they have different climates. Polar bears live in a different place than the penguins.
Yeah, polar bears are in North Pole, penguins are in South Pole. So they are not, I mean, not that they wouldn't eat them, but they are never come to a thing. And so what I'm getting at is South Pole or this area was one of the last places that we discovered. And it started, but obviously with the British explorer and so on. And obviously, what British did, they went everywhere. Nobody was there, put a flag in, said, "This is ours." And there is an island called South Georgia Island.
South Georgia Island.
Yes, it belongs to, that comes to play in history of Shackleton. That becomes important. And they had actually whaling station, fishing station. Just they called it themselves. Now, South Georgia Island has only one thing:
Fish.
penguins. There are
Well,
more penguins in South Georgia Island than anywhere else on planet,
okay.
and that comes as well to play later on. But um, and yeah, and more or less, that is the s- most southern place that humanity ever was, and
South Georgia Island.
South Georgia Island. Guess how far is it from Antarctica? Few thousand miles. So anything beyond that was like a wild, the dream for anybody to go there and so on. But then we have a good understanding about that this big mass of ice and land in the south of South Georgia Island, and they and they went just around it. They did a mapping of the Antarctica by going around it. The problem is there, it's very much depending on when you go there,
With
because
all the ice.
now, contrary to North Pole, where it is actually is no land, there is just ice that freezes, and but it freezes so that in winter, in summer, there's still ice there. So
Mhm.
it's a something you can walk in, but it's not really a mass of land. It's just the ice. um, South Pole is actually its land. There are mountains there. It's actually, but the size of that with the land that plus freezing water around that is, I think, what you can look up ChatGPT, double, triple, quadruple, because there's a lot of seasonal ice that it goes in, and so the cartography was very difficult because it wasn't the same. It was goes in and out. So, and that as well come to play later because that got them in trouble.
Mm.
The, especially in certain times, you're just in a in the ocean. You think it's the ocean toward the Antarctica. All of a sudden, you're surrounded by ice, and and this mass of ice that shift around pretty fast can really encircle you, and that's exactly what happened to them. But let's go back to this really unknown place called Antarctica. With quite, it's one of the, it's by mass, it's huge, and if you add the additional ice shells that are around that, it becomes even bigger. And then here comes the trouble. Obviously, you don't want to go there in winter, or to understand. You understand that when we talk about our summer is winter there and vice versa, north and south hemisphere, they have opposite spring, fall, summer, winter, right? So, but we are talking about the local winters there.
Hmm.
Okay, you don't want to go there in local winter
In
because it's
their winter.
in their winter because it's number one, it's dark, there's no light there. Number two, it is that because of the ice mass has expanded, you have a lot more
Foot trek.
foot track. So you want to get early enough there
Hmm.
in the spring or when the light start being more and when the ice mass reduces.
So I have a quick question. How much does the temperature change between winter and spring?
Winter can be minus sometimes 70, 80 degrees Celsius, meaning that probably 90, 100 minus Fahrenheit in winter.
Oh.
In summer, some areas, depending on where you are, can be around the freezing, but barely few degree above it.
That is a big difference though.
Oh yeah, it is a
Yeah. So
huge
that's
difference.
another reason why they would probably not want to go in winter.
And then as well, even worse than that, the wind. It is extremely windy. It
Yeah,
is
because
like
they don't have trees to block, they don't have anything to
oh,
block the wind.
not
So the
not
wind just keeps going.
not only that, but the way it works is that with this very, very cold weather and this practically nothing blocking it as well, that the movement of the air can be extreme, very extreme. They're like, imagine few months or few weeks having this hurricane level winds and so
Well,
on.
I mean, even if you drive through South Dakota, you'll see that they build those things to block the wind. So
Yeah.
I can just imagine.
So, but the problem is, for all the explorers that they wanted to go there, is that this moving ice, that if you're too late, you don't have enough time. If you're too early, all of a sudden you have these moving ice masses that are unpredictable and so on. So these are all real problems. So it took us a long, more longer time to be in South Pole than in North Pole, even though the temperature more or less are similar, but it was much more dangerous. And as well, the waters around the South Pole or Antarctica, they were more treacherous. Not only the ice, but as well the water and the.
You know that TikTok song that's like yo ho.
Yeah,
And
I think everybody in TikTok has heard that.
yeah, and they always do that at a certain area. I think is that this, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it
What's
is
it
sort
called?
of. It is that something pass that
Arctic
one of.
Pass?
No, it's not
Drake's
Arctic.
Pass. Drake's Pass.
I forgot what it's called. It's sort of Chile, and that area between Chile and Antarctica, that pass is the most dangerous path.
So
That's
that's where
why
he was.
who Shackleton?
Yeah.
Well, the Shackleton obviously they had to go around lots of different area, but certainly he was in the same general area.
Okay.
Yes, yes, um, and that's why, by the way, obviously, if you look at the globe, and it's a good exercise. If you want to do your children a favor, buy a globe, make them understand geography on a globe. It's so much more interesting. It's so much more as well add to your education to look at those things on a globe than on a map. But because then you understand there is actually a pass which is as well not that small, 1,000 miles or so between Antarctica and Chile. But that pass is one of the most dangerous. That is why ships are not only because of the extra gas and fuel they have to pay, but as well to not pass that pass, ships are willing to pay $1 million to go through Panama Canal. That was why Panama Canal was a thing in no 1890s, and the people tried and failed until we built it, the Panama Canal. That is why it's important. So, but let me give you another trivia. Did you know there is a way to go direct path from Pakistan to United States, direct path shipping? It's impossible on a map, but if you look at the globe, you see, yes, there is, and that path actually goes through that treacherous water we talked
Okay.
about. Okay, so let's come back to that. So it was at the beginning, obviously, it was a scientific exercise to just be in the South Pole, and it was a matter of pride. Like Obviously, and in that regard, Norwegian and the British, they were that always competing who's going to get there first and so
Who
on and
got
so
there
forth.
first?
Hmm?
Who got there first?
Which to South Pole?
Norwegian or the British?
Oh, Norwegian, obviously. Yeah. Did you know that, or you just
Well,
checking out?
I do have some Norwegian blood, so I just
So
guessed.
they're just and as a matter of fact, they I think they got there because they had more experience with the ice and movement in the ice and so on and so
Hmm.
forth. But yeah, let's come back to that. So it is the beginning of the century, and there's a huge spirit of exploration and so on. The ships are getting better, the steam engines are coming in, and so on and so forth. And obviously, all these water or navy nation like Portugal, Spain are on the downside. They're more or less forgotten, but British and the Norwegian are on the rise on the navigation and so on. Lots of difficulties with navigation, so and people are just looking around. So that's why the British were everywhere because they had a good navy, they have a good navigation, and so on and so forth. So, and it become not really a financial thing; it's become a matter of national pride. Who is going to be exploring South Pole?
Sure.
And Shackleton did not get famous by being in South Pole. He got extremely famous, and I think his fame is well deserved by what he went through and the amount of expertise he uh, um, practically demonstrated by just not dying by what he went through. So he's it's just the dawn of the First World War. So Shackleton went in that area multiple times, or I think maybe twice or so. He failed to do anything meaningful, but he learned a lot about that. On the dawn of the Second World War, actually, I'm sorry, First World War, um, that Shackleton finally has the right crew and is ready to sail for South Pole. And then First World War stops. He sent a letter to the Admiralty. Okay, I'm at your disposition. I'm ready to come back and be part of the war effort and so on. But his the ship is not exactly war material, and it was just a gesture. So the Admiralty give him permission to continue
Sure.
with his exploration, and uh, and they get there. They get there, and
How long did it take?
well, probably few months it would take. In that they didn't. I don't. I believe they mostly used actually sailing.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they. I think they did have a small engine and so on, but they mostly relied on the just the traditional sailing techniques
Hmm.
and so on. So months to get there.
Because this was early 1900s.
Yes, it is. Again, on the dawn of the First World War, 1914, is there when the First World War starts. So he gets there, and from the previous thing he has learned this time, he has sled dogs, he has sleds, he has the material, he has the right crew, and so on and so forth. And lo and behold, he get caught in those ice, moving ice. And and I think the first problem is that um, he and his crews they cannot free the ship, and he have to winter there.
What do you mean?
They have to they
Stay
get caught
there
in the
over
ice, and
winter?
yeah, they have to stay there over the winter, which is never a good idea.
Yeah, because they probably didn't have enough resources.
No, they couldn't free their ship.
Right, but I mean, they weren't expecting to stay there all winter, so they wouldn't have had enough
They
food.
had some food, and they sort of they considered that, and so on. Obviously, not doesn't matter what you consider. Antarctica will make a surprise for you. And then the sad story, they start eating their dogs actually.
Because they didn't have enough food.
Well, they didn't weren't planning to get caught that long. They had enough food for what they were planning, but the planning wasn't didn't really pan out.
Sure.
Yeah. They not only they ate what they brought for the dogs, they ate actually the
Well, yeah,
actual
because if you don't
dogs.
even have enough food for the people, why would you be able to have enough? Like, you wouldn't, you'd rather feed humans than feed the dogs.
No, but they had supplies to
No,
get.
I do understand that they
Yeah,
knew that they brought supplies.
yeah. So okay, they literally are there. They cannot really do anything because they got caught, and they're still in the ship. And then eventually they notice the ship is not going to make it because moving ice and the force of the ice on the hull of the, well, I think it was a wooden ship. The Endurance was a wooden ship. So they have to get on land. They bring as much as they can of the material to the land and hope that next summer somebody comes look for them. And and yeah, I mean, you have been in Minnesota winter. Imagine triple that, the cold and everything else, and now
And no house.
no house and tents and so on, and then
So
you
their
start
ship
eating your dogs one after another.
so their ship was stuck but not broken, right? Like did it
Initially
start
wasn't initially was not broken. Yeah.
okay. So it's not like they probably weren't able to think this far ahead because they didn't know, but it's not like they could
Oh,
just wait
they
and
they knew.
I'm sorry, you don't even know what I'm about to say.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not like they could just wait until the spring thawed out their ship because it was stuck in the ice. So it's not
It
like
was
they could
stuck in the ice.
yeah,
They
so
were
it's
hoping that when the spring comes, they get freed and they can move.
okay.
And they considered all of that. They knew that it. They knew there's a good chance they all will die. They knew that. So because that is what
Obvious.
people died. That is that. So and that is why I'm saying he had the right crew.
Hmm.
He had a fantastic navigator, and we come back to that. So he are on the ice. They cannot move. They are not close enough to the Antarctica, to the South Pole, to really take on that. So they are just hoping they get freed and then they go on. But then the ship it's pretty sure that the ship cannot survive this. So they get on the land or on the ice and camp there. They start eating one after another their dogs and their stuff and so on. And then eventually, I mean, obviously they bring some of their small boats and so on the land as well. And then eventually they start. Nobody comes, obviously. Nobody goes in winter, in their winter, which is
Yeah.
our summer. Go there for rescue. Even today, if there's a time that there is a research facility in South Pole. There's a certain time that everybody gets out, or few people stay there. Obviously, they have more opportunities, technology, and so on. But they know for a while nobody's coming. That's it.
I've seen those I've seen one of them on TikTok before
Oh
actually.
yeah, yeah. They get famous by staying there over entire winter.
But even that's uncomparable because they have a structure.
Oh yeah.
Like with electricity
Mm-hmm.
and these so did they end up taking apart their boat to build a structure?
They took enough stuff to build some shacks or some tents or reinforce them and so on. So most of, not all of them, but most of them did survive actually that winter, which by by just that part is amazing for me.
Yeah.
But they are pretty then low on everything when the time comes, and now they have just I mean, regular boat, and they can get into the water, but the closest place is South Georgia Island, which is a few thousand miles away. And that part is where the endurance starts, and that part is that where the expertise comes to play. With a small boat, with their sextant and with their navigation, they put sail to South Georgia Island. And it is for me still impossible to understand how how they did it. They actually made it. But the problem was they made it to the wrong side of the island,
Mm.
where the station wasn't on that side. But that time they were so weak that was impossible for them to all travel over it. South Georgia Island. It's a mountainous, quite mountainous. So, but they're on they make it to the island, which is a miracle by any standard, or it's a I would say they were the best at this, what they did, navigation and sailing and so on. And then it's actually very sad story that they have to kill about 60 penguins a day to survive. You remember South Georgia Island was the, because in a weather like that, you need a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sad part is that many of those penguins, all those things, they are low on fat themselves. And you need fat. Meat is not the best thing. You need fat to survive, like 9,000, 10,000 calories a day. So the less than a dozen people, they need to kill 60 penguin a day to just survive.
Wow.
But then Shackleton and I think another person goes over the mountain to the whaling station. Then they take a ship to go around the island to get them back,
And then save the rest of their crew.
save the rest of their crew. So endurance or endurance. So it's, and that shows what the human will and expertise can do. You have to have the expertise, obviously. Doesn't matter how much you want. If you cannot navigate in those waters, hitting Georgia Island in those waters, it is like hitting a baseball from throwing it from here to New York and hitting it. That is how unimaginably
Yeah.
no GPS, no radio navigation, and so on and so forth. So this is amazing feat they did. But so expertise, but as well on top of the expertise, the will, not wanting to die, because you put me in that weather for 2 weeks. I
And it definitely depends on who you're with too.
yes, the right team,
Yeah. And
and
leadership.
and leadership and a lots of luck. But that's why we know Shackleton. There are lots of people we don't know
So
because they didn't.
who is Robert Falcon Scott?
Is that the Norwegian guy who actually did make it to the
His rival is
his
what I
rival? Yeah, it's a
I
friendly rival.
well,
If
I
they
heard it's
weren't,
a weird rivalry.
everything in that area is weird. Anything in that area is weird. And as a matter of fact, there were lots of corpses on the way to Southport. There were other expeditions that people literally died and so on.
Mhm.
They always honored the other people who didn't make it. Sometimes they would even leave material there in certain location and disclose it to the other group. Hey, we have some stuff there. So it was a time that even rivals were gentlemen. So it's something about that. Even if I was your rival, I was your competitor, I was a gentleman. You look at today,
Where
100 more and 100 years later.
today you don't even have to have a rival. Like it's like there's so many people I've been hearing this quote lately,
Mhm.
pulling the ladder up behind them.
Yeah, this is what happened to humanity. I'm thinking about that. How did we go from like Scott and Shackleton and others? They literally leaving stuff behind they think they don't absolutely need, and disclosing it today. Hey, by the way, it's there. Don't die. Here, going to burning all the bridges behind us. So, read the book, read the story, and be in shock and awe about what human can really achieve if they put their mind in it and acquire the expertise, put the right team, put the right leadership, and willing to take the risk. And I
Yep.
think that's another thing that nobody want to take a risk anymore. Look at what I do. I see patient that I say, this is really easy to fix. Why do they let you be in pain for 7 years? And the fact is, have a set salary and they don't want to take any risk whatsoever.
But they also don't want other people to take risks because then it makes them look bad for
Look
not
bad,
taking
yeah,
the risk.
yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of History, and we talked about Shackleton. I'm Amanda Armagast.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence.
Have a good weekend.
Mhm.